and welcome to our Whatcha reading for August. Yes, today we're going to try and keep it to 2 minutes each. We have a timer. We'll see how it goes.
Challenge accepted.
All right.
Oh, I'm Miss Melanie, by the way, if you guys don't remember.
I'm Miss Ashley.
Miss Hana.
Okay.
It feels good to be back.
Yes.
We took a little break over the
Yes.
summer, and
Yes.
now that's why we have a little bit of a pile up now of all the books
Yes.
that we read over the past 2 months.
So in case you haven't read What You're Reading before, we are just going to share some of the books that we have been reading throughout the month and tell you why we like them and why you think you should read them.
Yeah.
Or if we don't like them, we'll tell you why you should
And I'm
read them.
excited because I have I got some advanced reader copies of books that I'm going to talk about that have just come out for you guys. So at this point, no one has read them yet. So that's exciting.
Nice. So you're going to hear if they're good or not before anybody else
Yes.
gets them. Cool. Well, shall I start?
Yes.
Okay, so I read this one, The Scorpio Races. I read this for like the third or fourth time, reread. I don't reread very often, so I was like, I should probably talk about it because
yeah.
I think it's really good. So this is MAGGIE STIEFVATER. How do you say that last name?
STIEFVATER.
STIEFVATER.
STIEFVATER works, yeah.
So she's written a bunch of different books that are all pretty good. She's got like a werewolf series, The Linger, Shiver.
Yes.
I forget what the other one is. And then she did the Raven Cycle. I don't know if you guys have read any of
Raven
those.
Boys?
The Raven Boys. Yeah.
I read that.
So this was one of her earlier ones, I think. It's a standalone, which is nice, my favorite kind. So the two main characters, Sean Kendrick is, so basically there's horse races every year on this imaginary island of Thisbe, and her writing is so, like, it just brings you to this island, and it kind of reminds me of like Ireland, probably.
Is it the same one from mythology, Thisbe?
I don't think it's the same. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Okay.
So Sean Kendrick has won these horse races for the past several years. He's a returning champion. And then Puck Connolly is the girl, the love interest, and she is forced to enter the races for the first time. And so they kind of have a little relationship that starts up, and you want both of them to win, so that's tough. And by the way, the horses are like murderous and eat people, so
Cool.
they're both orphans because of these horses. They're from mythology.
Wow.
The Kappa-Bushka or something like that.
So it probably is the
I don't know
island
if
of
I'm saying that
Thisbe
right.
from mythology.
Okay, so it might be, yeah. So anyway, it's really good. I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go next. So this book comes out, I think, July 20th, so you guys have probably read it by now. So I just have my Kindle. I'll have pictures up on the thing. It's called These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan, and it's so good. Okay, so it's about this girl named Abriella, and she, it's kind of like a Cinderella story in the beginning. She's like an indentured servant to this Madame V, and she is a thief, so she's like really good at getting through wards, and it's like magical. So there's like the human world, and then there's a land of fairy. So Fairscape is the human world, and then she doesn't like the fairies because they stole her mother when she was little. So it's just her taking care of her sister, and in the beginning she breaks into this house and she gets all this gold and she goes and pays off her debt. But when she goes to pay off the debt, her sister is sold to a fairy king. So right before that happens, there's like, there's gonna be a ball. The fairy prince has to pick his wife, the queen. So you have to go to the fairy ball, dress up and everything. So she goes to the fairy ball to save her sister, and she finds out that she already knows the fairy prince, and he's the Seelie prince. So there's the Seelie court and the Unseelie court. And so this Unseelie court is like darkness, and I have 30 seconds. It's darkness and bad, and so she makes a deal with the Unseelie king to get these 3 relics from the Seelie court, and then he'll set her sister free. So there's like a love triangle, like she loves someone from both courts, and she has to pick who's good and who's not, and like the whole time you're like, I wanted to be with him, no with him, no with him, and then like I got to the
Whiplash.
point, it was like right at the end, and I had like 10 pages left, and then I was like, I still don't trust him, and then it was like, bam, there's going to be a second one.
Ah.
I got it. I'm sorry if I talked very fast.
It sounds good.
It does sound good.
It's definitely
These
like,
Hollow Vows.
Yes, it's like The Selection meets Court of Thorns and Roses meets Throne of Glass.
Who's
Nice.
that?
Meets Wicked Prince. So it's like all the things together.
Who's that by?
This one's by Lexi Ryan,
Okay.
and it will be out by the end of July.
All right.
All right. Well, I've got two to talk about. Give the Dark My Love and Bid My Soul Farewell by Beth Revis. So the first thing that caught me was the cover. The covers are absolutely gorgeous. And the titles. I love the titles. And they do live up to their titles. They're awesome. So Give the Dark My Love is about this 17-year-old girl named Nedra who wants to be an alchemist. And there's different, in her world, there's different classes of alchemy. You've got the kind that does the science alchemy, the kind that does actual magical alchemy. And then there's medical alchemy. And then there's the fourth kind of alchemy, the dangerous kind, and that's necromancy. So, and if you know what necromancy is, it's puppeteering dead people, raising the dead. So yes, this is really dark. It's so good. So there's this plague that is just ripping through her island and the whole world basically. And she is trying to, and she thinks that she can find a way to help the people, to help her village. Her village has not been hurt by the plague yet because they're so far off into the north and it's really hitting the south. So she travels down into the south, she gets into this school, a very rich school for alchemists, and she starts training to be an alchemist. And she discovers necromancy, and she starts to feel like maybe the key to solving everything is through necromancy. So in the first book, she is kind of discovering herself as a necromancer, and in the second book, then it gets so dark and so good. Actually, the first book gets really dark too, like halfway through, you're like, whoa! And there's so many twists. And it's so good. It deals with the human condition too, and to the point where, you know, she has to accept when she can't help what she can do. And it's just awesome. I definitely recommend it. Read it.
I'm going to say something real quick. We have Liz off in the background going like 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So if you hear us starting to talk faster, that is why. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Next one I want to talk about is by John Green. He wrote The Fault in Our Stars and
Paper
An Abundance of Catherines.
Yes,
a whole bunch
Turtles All the Way Down.
Yeah, so he writes he has a lot of different YA books he's written, but this is actually like an essay collection, and it's in our adult nonfiction. But there isn't anything in it that I don't think, I don't know, teens I feel like can definitely read this. So it's called The Anthropocene Reviewed, which is a weird title.
What's Anthropocene?
Did not make me want to pick it up, but I was like, I love John Green, I'm going to give it a try, and it was really good. The Anthropocene is the geologic age that we are currently living in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that he talks about how this age is, you know, profoundly shaped by human activity. All the other geologic ages didn't have any humans in it, and so how we shape the earth, how we treat the environment, and all the wildlife and everything, how they're affected by us, and yeah, so he has, I'm not sure how many different essays. I love the essays, by the way, because you can just like read one per night, and it's a really nice place where you can stop reading and you can pick it up again later. Look, this one's autographed. Ooh. Anyway, he talks about how he autographed like a world record amount of books in here.
Is it his usual writing style too?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
I really like that.
It looks like 15 essays maybe, or 20, and there's Our Capacity for Wonder, Velociraptors, Diet Dr. Pepper, the Internet, Academic Decathlon. So he just talks about all these different things in his life, and then he rates them on a 5-star scale. So he's like, I give sunsets 3.5 stars or whatever, you know. So, and he'll talk about why. And yeah, and the whole style is like really open-hearted. Like he wrote it during the pandemic and talks about how hard that was on him and how worried he is about humanity. Like, you know, what's next? Are we going to get through this and all that stuff? And so it's like very earnest, celebratory. It's really good. So pick it up.
Okay.
Yay. Oh, it even says signed edition. I didn't notice that when I was looking at it.
So I'm going to talk about this one next. Okay, so this is recommended for you by Laura Silverman. And
by Melanie.
What?
Are you recommending it?
Yes, I am. So it is recommended by me. So recommended for you is about this girl who works at a bookstore and in the mall, and it is Christmas time, and she's Jewish. So she's talking about like, there's so many people here like to buy Christmas books, and her manager makes this like competition. So every sale or every book they recommend, they have like a QR code, sorry.
Oh, QR
they all
code.
have their own QR codes, so every time they recommend a book to someone, they hand them their QR code and then they scan at the register. So there's this guy who starts working with her, and he's also Jewish. They're competing for it, and it's like between the two of them, and they're like at the top, and it's just a really feel-good. I didn't love it because I feel like the author interjected too many of her own like either political views or like personal opinions about things, which doesn't, it kind of bothers me a little bit because like if it's a YA book, like it should be like less political in my opinion,
More
unless
fun,
it's like,
more
unless it's supposed to be that kind of book. But it was really cute overall. You don't get very many like Jewish holiday books, so I liked it. I thought it was good.
It sounds cute.
I'd give it like, yeah, I'd give it like a 3.5 stars.
Did it have enough of like the Jewish culture to really feel like it? No,
No.
I was worried about that.
Yeah,
I picked that up and then I was like,
But like the author's Jewish, so it was a fair
Right.
representation, but I didn't learn anything
Right.
about it. So, yes.
opportunity missed.
I know.
All right, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So I have been driving both, pretty much everybody, I've been driving everybody I know nuts about this book and asking them to read it. It's Dustborn by ERIN BOWMAN, and it is a standalone. It is huge, and it is so good. It's kind of like a sci-fi western mashup, a post-apocalyptic thing.
Yeah, so it's like set in the future, but it's out
Yes.
west, and
And
something crazy has happened, and we don't know what, but it's like there's hardly,
Right.
there's no water.
It's a huge mystery. You don't know what's going on. You just know that there's very little food, there's very little water. And the law of the land is you're born, you work, you survive, you die, you're replaced. That's pretty much it.
Nice.
And so
So just like no. Just kidding.
17-year-old Delta is from Dead River, which is where her pack lives, and it literally is a dried up riverbed, so it's called Dead River. And she ends up having to go on this epic journey through the wastes, and those are the desert lands that they go through. And there's this huge mystery throughout. There's all these different packs, and these are like families, or they're even like bigger villages and towns and stuff. And nobody trusts each other. And she actually travels to the different places in search of her family who was taken by the evil general.
Yeah, so
And-
everybody's looking for this green Eden called the Verdant, right? And
Yes.
so everybody wants to find it, but nobody knows where it is. And she has this map
That's
branded
branded,
on
yes.
her back. And so they think she's like the key to finding it, but nobody knows how to read. So
And it's actually, it's English. It's words that it's letters that we know, but nobody knows them. So she has to go throughout the waste to figure this out. She travels with a bunch, like a motley crew of companions. They get on this really cool ship thing, wind ship thing. It's awesome. And it ends in the very end. It's not like, oh, hey, there's a second book. It gives you a really good ending, and I never saw the twist coming at all. It was really good.
okay, so I'm in the middle of reading this, and I'm looking forward to the twist.
Yeah,
I
it's so good.
am about 10 minutes into the audiobook for this book.
I definitely think this is a great book, and it's definitely the best book I've read this year so far.
Wow. Cool.
Okay.
I don't know what the best book I've read this far.
It was actually better than like Forest of a Thousand Lanterns and the flower one, the Crimson Flower one. Remember those ones?
Yes,
I was
you
like,
loved those ones.
This was better.
I think These Hollow Vows is my favorite book I've read so far this year.
Awesome.
And I've read like 98 books this year.
I'm up there too, I know. I think my goal for the year was 120, and I think I'm at like 100 or something.
My
so
goal is
I'm
150.
definitely gonna get it.
I'm gonna
Once
push
when I
it.
graduate, then I'll have goals.
Yes.
Right now there are no
Reading
goals.
goals.
Oh, I have that book checked out.
Instructions for Dancing
cute.
by Nicola Yoon. She also wrote Everything, Everything. Did they make that new
The
movie?
sun is also a
Yes,
star.
they did, and that
Yes.
was such a great movie.
Yeah.
And
It
both.
was.
I
Did she
love
also
that
write
book.
The Sun is Also a Star?
I think so.
I think so.
Oh, that one was
Does
good.
it say
That was
back
good too.
here? That was a good book.
I think she wrote that one.
She
too.
did also.
Okay.
She grew up in Jamaica and now lives in Los Angeles. She's a hopeless romantic. Anyway, so Instructions for Dancing. This was like kind of a little bit of a bittersweet book. So there's these two characters. The girl is Evie, and she has this weird magical thing happen to her where all of a sudden when she sees two people kissing, she gets like flashes of how they met, some like memory that they have together where they're happy, and then how it ends. And so she becomes super cynical because she sees so many relationships end in her mind. And so she's like, I'm never gonna fall in love. Like, I see the heartbreak that everyone has, including her parents. Her parents are divorcing, so she's unhappy about that. So she thinks that this magical experience was triggered from this book that she picked up at a little free library called Instructions for Dancing. And it's basically like a dancing guidebook, how-to book, which is kind of weird when you think about it, like how do you learn how to dance from a book? But anyway. So
1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Exactly. So she sees inside the book that it's marked with the dance studio, La Brea Dance Studio, so she goes there to kind of just see if maybe she can do something that will make these visions stop. And she meets this boy X, and his philosophy in life is to say yes to everything. And so they kind of get corralled into joining like the amateur dance competition that the studio's participating in. And so she learns how to, foxtrot and,
cool.
tango and all that stuff. And so it's kind of like they're getting to know each other and falling in love, but she doesn't want to fall in love because she knows it'll be sad. And the whole thing is love worth the risk? And I already said it was bittersweet, so you can find out why, but it's good.
That sounds awesome.
It's really good. I think while she was writing it, in the author's note in the end, she talks about how her mom was going through an illness at the time when she was writing, and so you can kind of get that sadness while you're reading it, but still good.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about a book that I haven't read yet, but I'm starting it now. I know. It's called Six Crimson Cranes.
Elizabeth Lim?
It's beautiful, and I'm going to read
It is
you guys
beautiful.
what it's about because it comes out on July 6th. So by this point, I will have read it, and so will you, hopefully. So Shiori, the only princess of Kyoto, has a secret. Forbidden magic runs through her veins. Normally she conceals it well, but on the morning of her betrothal ceremony, Shiori loses control. At first, her mistakes seem like a stroke of luck, forestalling the wedding she never wanted, but it also catches the attention of Raikama, her stepmother. Raikama has dark magic of her own, and she banishes the young princess, turning her brothers into cranes, and warning Shiori that she must speak of it to no one, for with every word that escapes her lips, one of her brothers will die. Penniless, voiceless, and alone, Shiori searches for her brothers, and on her journey uncovers a conspiracy to overtake the throne. A conspiracy more twisted and deceitful, more cunning and complex, than even Rakami's betrayal. Only Shiori can set the kingdom to rights, but to do so she must place her trust in the very boy she fought so hard not to marry. And she must embrace the magic she's been taught all her life to contain, no matter what it costs her. So it sounds so good.
It does
and
sound
I'm
good.
starting it tonight, so
I just want to point out that that author, Elizabeth Lim, wrote Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk.
oh, okay.
The ones that I was like freaking out about last
And then
year.
I'm going to briefly talk about Graceling, the graphic novel, which people don't know is coming out. It comes out in November, and I already read it because I got the advanced reader copy. It is beautiful. It's so good.
I'm really, really excited to get to that one. So since we're waiting until November for this to come out, go read the regular
I didn't
format
read
novel.
the books first, and so it was like a completely new story to me, and now I want to read the whole series. So
It's really
this
good.
is just a reminder to read Graceling and get very excited for this book.
Okay. So the next book I have for you is From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Freakweiler by E.L. Koenigsberg. And this one isn't a new book at all, but
Yeah, it's like 55 years old or something.
it won a Newbery, didn't it? Yes, it won a Newbery medal. It doesn't have the year on it. Sorry, I wish I could tell you. But it was really good, and I've seen it on so many suggested reading lists, 1967, and wow. I just never read it, so I was like, I'm gonna read it, why not? And it's great, it's about these two kids that just, on a whim, decide to run away and live inside the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they do it, and they do it successfully. And they live there for, I don't know, like a week and a half or something. And they go throughout the museum, like during the day as part of the crowds and as part of the school trips and everything. They hide in the bathrooms at night. You can't do this now because there's too many cameras everywhere.
We check the bathrooms, don't try.
That too. But they used to stand on top. What they did is they stood on the commode and they would watch the feet go by, and they'd kind of hang their feet up a little bit, and they'd wait, and then the light would go out, and they'd stumble around in the dark in the museum and everything. And to get food, they would actually just go into the fountains and pick up all the change, and then they'd go buy food and have bus fare and stuff. It was really cool. They were very smart kids, man. So they end up discovering this mystery in the museum with Michelangelo's angel. They don't know if Michelangelo actually carved this angel. So they go on this crazy thing, and it's narrated by Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, and she's telling the story about how she met these kids. And it's just really good, and she's also hilarious. She's like the perfect, I would want her to be my grandma. She's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yes.
I'm all out.
Oh, okay.
So you're up, Melanie.
Okay,
All right.
so I'll talk about this one. Lycanthropy and Other Chronic Illnesses by Kristin O'Neill.
I started this one and I did not finish.
You didn't like it? I liked it a lot.
Did you listen?
I read it.
Okay.
I tried to listen to it, and I could not stand the narrator.
I did not like the narrator,
I did not like,
and I
she was,
returned that sucker.
and another reason why I recommend reading it is because at least half the book takes place over like either Tumblr or Discord chat. So if you're listening to it, they'll like say the usernames and then what they say, and that's like really hard to follow along with. So the premise of the book is the main character gets Lyme disease when she's in college. So she's halfway through college and she gets bit by a tick, and she gets Lyme disease. So the way Lyme disease works is you get bit by a tick who has the bacteria, and then they clear the bacteria from your body, but it like whatever happens to you is like long-term damage. Like it'll pretty much never go away. So she gets Lyme disease and she's really upset about it. She can't go to, she drops out of college, goes home, lives with her parents, and they take care of her. And so she finds this chat room. I think it's Tumblr, but I'm not sure. But she finds this chat room for other teens and college students with chronic illnesses. So it's like, it gets super deep. They talk about like really deep concepts like hopelessness, suicide, like what to do when you feel like there's nothing for you to do. And there's this one girl in the group who's her best friend on the internet. Her name is Bridget. And she's like, I don't know if I have, like, I don't know if what I have is considered a chronic illness. And they're like, no, if something affects your body and you can't get rid of it, it's a chronic illness. So she has lycanthropy. She is secretly a werewolf. But no one believes her. And then she goes missing. And so the chat people like bring into real life kind of thing. And it's really good. It's a very hopeful story that like you're not alone no matter what you're going through. And it's really good. I almost cried, but I did not cry.
Yeah.
It was so funny too. Like it's like you read this chapter and it's like, wow. And then you read the next chapter and you're like cracking up. Like it's so good.
That's nice.
Like life.
Like life, yes.
So I just picked up the large copy of Fruits Basket because I just finished the anime, the Fruits Basket 2019, the reboot, just aired its last episode on Crunchyroll last night, and I watched it, and I cried a lot. It was really good. So I was like, you know what, I gotta go read the manga again. So I did. And I loved it once again. I think we already talked about it a little bit, so I'll just go really quickly. There's this family that is cursed with this, they have the zodiac curse. So the story is God had a banquet and he invited all of the animals to come to the banquet, and they had a race to get there. And the rat won only because he tricked the cat. The cat didn't even go, so the cat was angry. And he rode on the back of the cow across the river to get to God. So everyone hates the rat. But and he's clever. And this is the rat, by the way. This is Yuki-kun. And what happens with these guys, with their curse, is if they hug the opposite sex, or they get really embarrassed, or they get sick, they change into their animal zodiac. And it's super cute, super funny, and lighthearted. And then it's not. Then it gets dark, and it gets deep, and it's wonderful. And the anime, the reboot anime, stuck to the manga so well. I was so happy with it. I've heard mixed reviews, but I don't care. I loved it. It was awesome. And I'm kind of hoping that they also release an OVA of Toru's parents,
Sorry, everyone who's not Fruits Basket spectrum. What? Summer was the girl who meets the Zodiac family, and she basically changes everything, and she sets them on the trajectory to breaking the curse. And it's so good. So I'm hoping that yes, they will release an OVA of her parents meeting, because they have a beautiful, short, tragic romance, but it is wonderful. So definitely want to read it. So definitely read Fruits Basket and watch the anime.
So I'm really excited about the Cruella movie coming out. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things about it. So I picked up Hello, Cruel Heart, which is a book that is inspired by this movie. So a lot of what goes on in that movie goes on in this book, but it deviates a little bit is what I'm hearing. So I love this because it's a 17-year-old version of Cruella de Vil before she's Cruella de Vil. So in this book, Cruella is actually an alter ego of Estella, and she is this gifted seamstress, young seamstress, but she doesn't really have like a room of her own to work with. So when she was younger, she actually witnessed her mom get murdered by somebody, and she became an orphan on the streets of London. And she falls in with Jasper and Horace, and they become like older brothers to her, and I love it, really. Jasper and Horace, you know, they're bumbling thieves in the cartoon and everything, but in the book, they're so human and they're so funny, and I really like them. They're adorable. And she's trying to figure out her way to becoming a fashion star. She wants to dress all the stars, and she wants to climb the ladder in fashion society. So, but she's just a pickpocket and a thief, a very good thief. And she ends up finally getting her big break when she makes friends with these rich kids, and she goes off into the fashion world. And she gets a rude awakening too, because Estella's always aware of Cruella. She usually tells her, "Thank you for coming, now please leave," whenever she shows up, and she ruins everything because she insults somebody or she punches someone in the face or something like that. Yeah, Cruella's mean. And Jasper and Horace know about Cruella, and they know when she comes around what to do to make her go away, and they always forgive Estella. So, but Estella's now out of her element with all these rich people, and she learns very quickly you can't trust anybody in that society. And as she's climbing, I'm only halfway through, so all I know is that it was really, really, really good, and now it's going to take a turn, and things are going to go really, really, really bad, and I'm super excited for that. Also, she's dating a musician, and it's awesome. Done.
Okay, so this book called Horrid by Katrina Leno. It's really creepy. This book was on the list of 85 YALSA Florida Teen Reads books, and it's about this girl who moves with her mom into her grandma's old house that's now abandoned. So they move from New York City because her dad dies. So she moves from New York City to, I think it's like Louisiana, and it's like an old, huge house with all these empty rooms, and it's like a real fixer-upper. So her and her mom go there, and they start fixing up the house, and all these creepy things start happening. So like they go in the middle of winter, and there's like, she walks in the house and she smells roses. And she's like, that's weird, why do I smell roses? So she goes out to the garden, and there's like this giant rose bush, like perfectly full of roses, which, if you know anything about gardening, takes a lot of work. And the house has been abandoned for like 10 years. So she's like, weird, I guess they're just like still growing. So she goes to school, and she comes back, and she finds her mom like hacking all these roses with like these like giant like clippers. And she's like, Mom, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm just cutting them back some. And she's like, okay, if you say so. So then all the roses grow back black. And so she's like, that's not normal. And like she'll see like things walking by in the house, like she'll hear things in the room that no one should be in. And there's a character named Melanie, and I'm like, ooh, but she's really mean. She's like the bully, and I'm like, that's not me. It makes me sad. Like, whenever I read a book and there's a character named Melanie, she's like always like either really mean or like really like quiet, and I'm like, why is no one like me?
You're one of a kind.
I'm one of a kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very good. It was really creepy, and the ending was like I did not expect it at all. Like, it is not,
Those endings.
it is not a happy ending.
Oh. If you can stump us and surprise us.
And it's based on, the whole thing is based on this poem. But the whole thing's based on this old nursery rhyme where it's like, there was a little girl with a little curl in the middle of her forehead. When she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was horrid. And so like the dedication in the book is like, this is to my mom who used to tell me this rhyme all the time. Thanks, Mom, it's really creepy. And so she writes this whole book based on this rhyme. And it's like, it's in like different sections. And each section is part of like the, once there was a girl, was section 1, and then who had a little curl, section 2. And the last one is when she was bad, she was horrid. So that's how the book ends, with that quote. So it's really good, and I recommend it.
Cool.
And I'm done.
You like scary.
I like scary and creepy books because the life of a youth librarian is too happy.
Okay.
Most of the time.
With that, I think we are finished for the month of August. We will be back next month with all our newest reads. And come see us in the libraries and let us know what you've been reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.